Israelis lack any credible conventional military power to counter the Iranian nuclear threat. Don't know about that, but their forced option, they're forced into doing this, would be a preemptive nuclear strike. So more news on the build-up towards war. Obama told to use leadership stay away from war with Iran when U.S. President Barack Obama has been interrupted by a heckler when he was speaking about foreign policy during a re-election campaign fundraiser in New York. I don't know where they got that. Look at this. He speaks at a fundraiser. I guess this is yesterday. He looks pretty evil right there. Either way, as Obama discussed foreign policy on Thursday, a woman yelled out, quote, "Use your leadership, no war with Iran," end quote. In response, Obama said, quote, "Nobody's announced a war, young lady. You're jumping the gun a little bit," end quote. And just a quick comment here, they don't necessarily want a big bloody war if they could avoid it. If they could just have it, just like the crap not hitting the fan and have it smoothly, that's what the elites, these social engineers, the powers that be, that's what they like. They like smooth transitions, no deviation from the agenda. So if they can do it without saying, oh, no war, then hey, that's what they'll do. So if they can get a regime change in Syria and then in Iran without actually bringing a fighter jet over, then that's good. I mean, if they do, then they make money, but it's bad for business, bad for politics. You know, too many bloody bodies to explain and loose ends. WikiLeaks, Russia gave Israel Iranian system codes. Document by intelligence companies suggests Israel, Russia contracted a deal several years ago under which Israel provided Russia with codes for UAVs it sold to Georgia in exchange for Iranian aerial defense system codes. According to the leaked document, Israel gave Russia the data link codes for unmanned aerial vehicles, i.e. drones, that the Jewish state sold to Georgia, and in return, Russia gave Israel the codes for the Tor M1 missile defense system that Russia sold to Iran. I'm not sure if that's to create some space between Iran and Russia, or if Russia's throwing them under the bus. Russian bank blocks Iran embassy accounts in Moscow. A Russian state-controlled bank has closed down the accounts of Iranian embassy staff in Moscow, an obvious submission to unilateral sanctions imposed by the West against Iran's ambassador to Moscow. Criticized the measure on Friday, accusing the Russian bank, of surrendering to U.S.-led financial sanctions against Iran. Remember, North Korea, they buckled to because of what? Because of food aid. And in Pakistan, they have what? They have aid. That's why they still allow them to drone bomb them, because they're getting aid. Just like in Egypt, why did the Egyptians not pursue these NGO groups that they were detaining, like the 15 individuals? Because the U.S. threatened to cut off aid. I mean, and it's not really the U.S. The U.S. is just used as like a proxy for this world government. So it's just they got them by the short hairs, as they say. And that's how they like to do it. So let's starve the Iranians. Israeli officials say starve Iranians to stop nukes. The West should adopt North Korean model of Tehran. Hunger in Iran could prompt regime to consider whether nuclear adventure is worthwhile, Jerusalem official says. Iran citizens should be starved in order to curb Tehran's nuclear program, officials in Jerusalem said on Wednesday, ahead of Netanyahu's upcoming trip to Washington. Quote, North Korea is halting its nuclear program in order to receive aid and food, and this is what should be done with Iran as well, one unnamed official has said. Moving on here, we have U.S. prepares to refuel Israeli planes striking Iran, says report following Israeli calls on U.S. to toughen its stance on Iran's nuclear energy program. Pentagon officials have announced preparations for the aerial refueling of Tel Aviv planes that may strike Iran. They may include Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. See, I mentioned that before, remember? And its elite Quds Force, regular Iranian military bases, and the Ministry of Intelligence and Security. Depka file quoted the officials as saying. Remember I mentioned that the Seymour Hersh article way back from 2007, 2008 during the research I was doing. That's what they're going to do, along with assassinations and that. They're going to airstrike, strategic strikes to bases. Congress, Iran arming Mexico drug cartels and smuggling drugs into the U.S. So now they created this. Look at this. Remember I guess you call it a BS story about the Iranian assassins and that? It says here, House panel passes bill claiming Iran is arming Mexico drug cartels, inciting border violence and smuggling drugs into the U.S. using sophisticated Hezbollah narco tunneling. That's right, it's Bill H.R. 3783. Of all the ridiculous, contrived, distorted pieces of propaganda the U.S. government has fabricated against Iran, this has to be the most disturbing of them all. Finishing up with Iran, Pakistan rejects U.S. sanctions threat, will expand energy ties with Iran, isolating Iran, proving extremely difficult for the powers that be in the global government. Position, remember this article I covered, February 2nd, 2012, position unchanged, no backtracking on Iran gas pipeline, Pakistan said, because they're getting threatened by the West. Remember India, you better take our oil, not go with Iran, but India said, and they're reportedly going to trade with Iran for their oil while they buy Western jets, fighter jets. So I don't know. United Nations censures Syrian government. In a meeting in Geneva, Switzerland, the UN Human Rights Council on Thursday passed a resolution condemning Syria for widespread violations that may amount to crimes against humanity.
Well, Kim, we still have a very strong opposition to foreign intervention from inside Syria, from outside Syria. We don't have the United Nations Security Council approval, legitimacy, credibility that comes with the international community making a decision. We have a very dangerous set of actors in the region, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and those who are on our terrorist list, to be sure, claiming to support the opposition. You have many Syrians more worried about what could come next.
So there you go. Hillary Clinton admits U.S. and Al-Qaeda terrorists airlifted from Libya to aid Syrian opposition. Remember from November of last year, the same Al-Qaeda terrorists who fought U.S. troops in Iraq, helped NATO overthrow Colonel Gaddafi, and now are being airlifted into Syria, or they were, to aid rebels there and toppling President Bashar al-Assad. And we certainly remember this. Libya's new rulers offer weapons to Syrian rebels. One step closer to civil war. And this is, remember, Clinton kept saying they're going to head to a civil war. Syrian rebels form military council to oppose Assad regimes. Clinton